Western Australia is in the middle of a run-up to an election, and when all else fails, it's the West versus the rest. Now, there was a decision taken by National Cabinet where the Emperor was probably not paying attention because he was too busy, tucking in his very tight shirt, where they agreed that New South Wales would end up taking the bulk of people coming back into Australia. And those people, by the way, are, what's that word? Australians, right? Australian citizens. Not, random backpack Australians, including ones born in New South Wales, like Mark McGowan. And can live all over the country. There was a decision. All the leaders agreed, right? But you've seen this garbage in Queensland. We're not going to pay the $30 million unless we can put people in tents at the end of Toowoomba Airport. And now Mark McGowan is doing the same as a way of winning the upcoming election, which, he can shut up and he wins this coming election by an absolute country mile. I hope there's some protest vote in the upper house, please, WA. You may have heard the ridiculous attempt by New South Wales to bill other states for the cost of their hotel quarantine systems. WA will not be paying. New South Wales wants everyone to think that they're the only state that's doing their bit to bring Aussies home. The New South Wales government thinks they can be above everyone else. They agreed at National Cabinet, Gary. They were in the room.
Yeah. And look, Paul, the protocol's pretty simple. I know that Queensland hospitals are only for Queenslanders, but in the case of New South Wales hotels are for all Australians. In fact, the entire world stays in New South Wales hotels. Now, Paul, the protocol normally is this, that if I, as a Queensland resident, Queensland taxpayer with my Medicare home address registered here in Queensland, end up in a New South Wales hospital, heaven forbid I don't want to, there is a transfer of costs. So New South Wales sends the bill to Queensland, and Queensland gets a certain amount of money from the Australian government each year to handle medical costs and all that sort of stuff. So that transfer happens regularly. So it does make reasonable sense, given that half of the arrivals or more into Australia, including a lot of West Australians, were landing, because that's the place where planes were landing.
Correct. Except
if you owned a private jet and were a friend of the government, they were landing in Sydney. So it is not unreasonable, and I'm a friend of the West Australian government, with private jets. I mean, they were flying in and out of Perth having a happy time. But, the hoi polloi, you and me and everybody else, we would have had to have stayed in a hotel, not of our choosing, but of the direction of government. And we were all in this together, it seems. So look, it's a stunt, Paul. It's as simple as that. The stuntmeister here in Queensland pulled it the other day, ripped up a piece of paper and said, I'm not paying it. Well, come on, mate, fair income.
Sam,
therefore, but the grace of God go you if you're not careful. So just shut up and get on with it and grow up and pay your funds, pay your money.
Look, Sam, this bloke's going to win. He doesn't have to do this. They agree at National Cabinet to do it. Just pay the freaking money.
Yeah, I agree. But you can't blame a politician for not wanting to leave a vote on the table.
Mate, he's got them all. He's got them all. There's not even Zach's family's going to vote for him.
I've never thought of a politician to be anything other than greedy when it comes to votes. Look, I would wonder if the New South Wales government couldn't get this back through the GST harmonisation process later in the year.
You don't think the WA government would love that, because then they can go into the next federal election saying, well, your GST money's been stolen, vote Labor. Come on.
Maybe. I mean, when Telstra sends me my monthly phone bill, when Telstra sends me my phone bill, I might use that same excuse.
Yeah, correct. Look, also, they should just punch out the minutes of National Cabinet and say, on this date, this happened. Bang.
Well, the other way they can deem that the accommodation in the hotels quarantining was, in all intents and purposes, a hospital bed for the purposes of the negotiation.
Exactly.
And bill them exactly the way they're billed with regard to the way that Gary just described it.